Hello, my name is Jojo, and welcome to your hour-long Vinyasa yoga practice. So today we're going to be flowing with the breath and linking one breath to one movement. We're going to get started today in a child's pose. So from kneeling at the back of your mat, bring your big toes towards each other and your knees away from each other. Sit your hips back to your heels. Stretch your arms out in front of you. And drop your head. If your head doesn't reach the floor, you could take a block underneath your forehead. If you'd like some cushion between your hips and heels, you could also take a bolster or rolled up blanket in between your hips and heels. If child's pose doesn't feel like a rest to you, you could find a different resting pose, maybe coming to one side and lying in a fetal position and closing your eyes, or even finding a comfortable seat and closing your eyes. The postures that I offer you today are all suggestions. You can come to a resting pose at any time throughout the next hour, if that's child's pose, fetal position, or seated. Make this practice your own. Listen to what your body needs and desires. Here in your resting pose, begin to tune in to your breath and narrow your field onto your mat. Yoga is not a competitive sport, and so it resides on your mat. Release what came before in your day, what comes next, and carve out not only some space for yourself on your mat, but some time. The next hour is yours. Tune into your breathing. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. This is a nice cooling breath. So use this breath to calm down or to cool down. You may want to build up more heat as we go. If you'd like more heat, you can take your Ujjayi pranayama, your breath of victory. Breathe in through your nose, keep your lips sealed, and breathe out through your nose. Your breath drags through your throat, creating a foggy texture and a bit of a sound. That's your Ujjayi pranayama, your breath of victory. You can switch back and forth between open or closed mouth exhales at any time, depending on whether you want to cool down or warm up. At the end of the class, there will be a period of rest called Shavasana, and during this time, please stay on your mat. If you need to leave early, please do so before Shavasana begins. I always like to start off a yoga class with an intention. If you came to the mat with an idea already in your head of perhaps someone or something that you'd like to dedicate your practice to, then tune me out. I like to offer an intention as well. And today I'd like to offer the intention of finding some balance. We're going to move through the body from the rooting down of your feet into the earth all the way up through the crown of your head into the air. But other than sort of a totality of your body balancing, it might also behoove you to think about a pair of opposites or opposite forces that hold sway in your life. So that might be something like movement and stillness, or effort and rest. It could be tight and loose, or strong and supple, connected and disconnected. Anything that resonates with you that you'd like to stop the cycle going back and forth, find a little more sattva, a little more balance in that pair of opposites. Use a couple breaths to seal your intention for yourself, whatever that may be. Now on your next inhale, use the heels of your hands and pull yourself up. Press into your tabletop position on your hands and knees. Then walk your hands towards your knees and come to a kneeling position. You could take a blanket under your knees for a little more cushion. And interlace your fingers behind your head. Widen your elbows out nice and wide. On your inhale, lift your heart up and out. Turn your gaze up and out. Your elbows come out wide. On your exhale, round your back. Open up through your upper back and tuck your elbows in towards each other in front of your face. Tuck your chin towards your chest. Inhale, lift up, arch your back, send your elbows wide. Exhale, round your back, tuck your chin. Inhale, open up through your front side body. Exhale, open up through the back of your body. Balancing front to back. A few more times, inhaling to expand, exhaling to round. Last time through, take your full round. Inhale, exhale. And then once you finish your last exhale, release your arms by your sides and roll up into a tall, neutral spine. And take your hands down to the ground in front of you, walk them out and find your tabletop position again. Then shift your knees over to your left side and drop your right hip down onto the ground. Walk your hands up to find a seated position, leaning on your right hip. Now, your legs could be, your knees could be about a foot apart, your top leg resting on your bottom leg, or you could shift your top leg a little further back to find your deer pose and nestle the top of your thigh to the bottom of your right foot. Now turn towards the top of your mat. Hook a hand onto your thigh, your fingertips on the floor, and twist open towards the top of your mat, sitting down on your right hip. With each inhale, focus on finding length in the spine. With each exhale, focus on the twist. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist. Good. Inhale, turn towards the long edge of your mat. Unwind your twist. Exhale, sweep your right arm up and over your head. You can keep your left hand on your thigh or take your fingers to the floor, yogi's choice. Bow out on your right side, stretch out the intercostal muscles in between your ribs. Keep both shoulders rolling down away from your ears. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, drop both hands to the top of your mat. Bring your knees back into line and then roll over onto your knees, coming back to your tabletop position, and switch. Walk your knees over to the right, sit down on your left hip, and scoot your hands up, come to a seated position. Your legs can be close or your top leg can come back in your deer pose. Twist around to face the top of your mat. Hook your right hand to your left leg. Keep your left fingertips pressing into the floor to lift you up. Open up through your heart, broaden your collarbones. Inhale, exhale, wind yourself back around to face the long edge of your mat. Inhale, lift your left arm up. Exhale, hinge at your waist. Bow out on your left side. Option to take your right fingertips to the floor or keep them on your leg. Keep your shoulders rolling down away from your ears. Create some more space for your lungs. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, drop both hands toward the top of your mat. Slide both knees in towards each other. Draw your knees to the mat and find your tabletop position on your hands and knees. Walk your knees back another foot or so towards the back of your mat. And drop your hips down so you create a long line from your knees to hips to shoulders in your modified plank. Bend your elbows, lower yourself all the way down to your belly. Keep the tops of your feet on the floor and your palms on the floor. Use almost no weight in your hands. Use your back muscles to peel your chest off the mat. Inhale. Keep your gaze just past the top of your mat on the floor. Take your last inhale to lift. Exhale, drop your chest. You can repeat your low cobra, or you have the option to come up a little higher. Inhale, lift your chest. Option to bring some weight to your hands and lift your belly. Press down. Keep your belly button tucking in towards you. Then on your exhale, either bend your knees past through a child's pose or a tabletop position. Then tuck your toes under. Press into the balls of your feet. Lift your hips up into the air, downward facing dog. Keep your feet about hip width distance apart, your hands about shoulder width distance apart. Focus on your tailbone tipping up high. Then without lowering your tailbone, soften the backs of your legs. Let your heels reach toward the floor. It's all right if they don't reach, they don't touch. Inhale, look for the top of your mat. Exhale and step your feet up to the top of your mats one by one. Let your feet remain about hip width distance apart. Let your spine relax and the crown of your head travel down toward the ground. Allow your muscles to go limp so your tailbone lifts and the crown of your head drops. Let gravity create a little more space in between each vertebra of your spine. Option to grab for opposite elbows, or if you've got blocks, you could take blocks under your hands to support you and rise you up. You could even find a little movement here, maybe a sway side to side. Rolling out your head around in circles. If you grabbed for opposite elbows, put the other arm on top. Balance out your right and left sides. Drop your hands down toward the floor, soften your knees. Roll yourself up nice and slow into a tall standing position. Round your back and roll up, stack your spine vertebra by vertebra. Your head's the last thing to reach the top. When you reach the top, make any adjustments that you need to hair, clothing, or anything else. And then find your tall standing again. Feet about hip width distance apart. Spread your toes, melt your feet into the floor. Ground down into the earth. Avoid locking out your knees. Bring a little softness to them. Engage your lower abdominal muscles, and as your navel pulls in, your low back lengthens. Drop your tailbone down toward the ground. Bring your palms together and plug your thumbs into your sternum. Your sternum rises to meet your thumbs. Shut your eyes. Revisit the intention that you set at the beginning of class, whether it was something that you brought with you to your mat, or whether you'd like to embrace the offering of balancing between opposites. Bring your intention into your mind's eye and let it absorb your awareness. Reseal your intention with an inhale through your nose and an open mouth exhale. Blink your eyes open slow. Drop your arms, let them hang by your sides. Turn your palms to face out and away from you. We're going to start by finding your connection to your feet and the earth. We're doing some literal balance challenge. So if at any point you teeter-totter, you wobble, it's all good. Let it go. Keep breathing. Join when you're ready. On your inhale, begin to pour weight into the balls of your feet. Your heels float away from the floor. Lift your heels slow, all the way up. Then on your exhale, sink your heels slow back down toward the ground. You may feel a little wobble. It's okay. Let your heels sink. Inhale to rise up away from the floor, nice and slow and even. Exhale, let your heels drop slow. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Let the motion take the entirety of your breath. Take a few more. Inhale to lift up. Exhale, sink your heels down slow. Take your last round here. Inhale, lift. And exhale, lower. As your heels drop down into the ground, root down, let your feet melt, soften your knees, tuck your navel, bring your hands together and plug your thumbs to your sternum, shut your eyes. Tune into the sensation in your feet, your ankles, your legs, and always coming back to your breathing as well. Tune in, take note if your breath has changed. And blink your eyes open slow. And relax your arms by your sides. Then toe heel your feet together until your big toes come into contact with each other. Leave a little sliver of space in between your heels. And keep that long, tall spine. Slight engagement with your lower abdominals. Lift your rib cage away from your pelvis. Inhale, lift your arms up and over your head. Without bending your elbows, roll your shoulders away from your ears. Good. Turn your palms towards each other. Inhale. Exhale, draw your hands together, bring them in front of your heart, hinge at your hips, soften your knees, drop down towards the ground. Let your belly come out over your thighs and drape over your thighs. Bend your knees deep, sink your hips low. On an inhale, lift your chest away from your thighs. Take your arms straight out in front of you, reach for the horizon. Keep your legs squeezing together and your navel tucking in towards your spine. Inhale, straighten your legs, reach up high. Exhale, draw your hands together in towards your heart. We're gonna start flowing now, linking one breath to one movement. Remember, these are all offerings. You can take a rest at any moment. You could come down to the mat. Focus on your breath, linking your breath and movement together. Inhale, reach for the sky. Exhale, draw your hands together in front of your heart. Bend your knees, hinge at your hips, fold forward. Inhale, keep your knees bent, your hips sinking low. Peel your chest off your thighs, reach your arms straight out in front of you. Chair pose like you're sitting back. Hold here for your exhale. Inhale, lift up to your tall spine. Exhale, draw your hands into your heart. A couple more times. Inhale, lift your arms over your head. Exhale, bend your knees, gather up some energy, bring it in towards your heart, and then fold down towards the ground. Keep your hips sinking down. Inhale, reach your arms straight out in front of you. Engage your lowest abdominal muscles and let your low back remain long. Take your next exhale. Then on your inhale, lift up tall, straighten your legs. One more time through. Bring your hands to heart center on your exhale. Inhale, mountain pose, lift your arms up high. Exhale, bend your knees, hinge at your hips and fold forward. Inhale, rise up into your chair pose, reach your arms straight out in front of you. Hold for your exhale, squeeze your legs together. Inhale, stand up tall, reach for the sky. Exhale, draw your hands into your heart center. And return to your natural breath. Tune into your breath. Good. Now roll down towards the floor. Drop your arms, soften your knees, and come back to your forward fold or your ragdoll. Take your hands to the ground and step your feet one by one towards the back of your mat. Tip your hips up high, sink your heels down low, downward facing dog. Let your head drop in between your arms. Inhale and lift your right foot off the floor. Exhale, step your right foot to the top of your mat, low lunge. Line up your front foot in between your hands. Spin your back heel down to the ground. Inhale, stand up tall and cartwheel your arms out wide. Your right arm goes forward, your left arm comes back. Check out your feet. Make sure that your feet are in one line. Your front heel bisects your back arch. And bend your front knee so it travels straight over your ankle, a 90-ish degree bend. Inhale, straighten your front leg. Take your hands to your hips. Exhale, turn all your toes toward the long edge of your mat. So you're standing with your legs wide. Exhale and draw your hands all the way down your legs as you fold forward towards the floor. Keep your hands on your legs, your ankles, your calves. Inhale, lift up halfway, flatten your back. Shoot the crown of your head straight out in front of you. Exhale, fold. Drop down towards the ground. Inhale, rise up all the way. Drag your hands along your legs. Stand up tall. Exhale, bend your front knee and turn your front toes toward the top of your mat. Reach your arms out wide. Find your warrior two. Inhale, straighten your front leg. Keep your front toes pointing toward the top of your mat. Take your hands together up over your head, then reach up and back and stretch out your right side long. Inhale, reach up, bend your front knee. Exhale, drop your hands all the way to the top of your mat. For your low lunge, spin your back heel off the ground. Inhale, step your right foot back. Exhale, tip your hips up high in your downward facing dog. You have the option here for a chaturanga, high to low plank, or some version of your vinyasa. You could rock forward, bend your elbows, take your cobra or your up dog, and reach your hips up and back into your downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your left foot off the ground. Exhale, step your left foot to the top of your mat. Find your low lunge. Spin your back heel to the ground so your toes point to the long edge of your mat. Inhale, stand up tall, cartwheel your arms wide so your left arm goes forward, your right arm goes back. Bend your front knee to a 90-ish degree bend. Slight engagement of your glutes to roll your legs open and your hips open. Inhale, straighten your front leg. Take your hands to your hips. Exhale and turn all 10 toes toward the long edge of your mat. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, draw your hands down your legs and fold forward. Inhale, rise up halfway. Draw your hands just up towards your knees. Lengthen your spine. Exhale, draw your hands back down your legs and fold. Inhale, draw your hands all the way up towards your hips, coming into a tall standing position. Exhale, bend your front knee, widen your arms in either direction for your warrior two. Inhale, straighten your front leg, take your hands together over your head, reach up and out with your left side. Exhale, bend your front knee and cartwheel your hands all the way to the top of your mat, low lunge. Inhale, step your left foot back. You can take a plank or your downward facing dog. Optional vinyasa here. You could find your chaturanga, your high to low plank, or come down, find your cobra. We're gonna meet back in a downward facing dog. Now we're gonna flow through this. Linking one breath to one movement. You can come to a rest at any time. Keep breathing. Inhale, lift your right foot off the ground. Exhale, step your right foot to the top of your mat. Spin your back heel down. Inhale, rise up to your warrior two, arms wide. Exhale, straighten your front leg. Take your hands to your hips. Inhale, turn your toes toward the long edge of your mat. Puff up your chest. Exhale, drag your hands down the sides of your legs and fold. Inhale, rise up halfway, hands towards your knees. Exhale, hands towards your ankles and fold. Inhale, drag your hands all the way up your legs, stand up tall. Exhale, bend your front knee, arms go wide, warrior two. Inhale, straighten your front leg, take your arms over your head, reach up and out with your right side. Exhale, bend your front knee, take your hands to the ground, low lunge, spin your back heel off the ground. Inhale, step your right foot back. Exhale, some form of your chaturanga or find your downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your left foot off the ground. Exhale, step your left foot to the top of your mat. Spin your back heel to the ground. Inhale, stand up tall in your warrior two, arms wide. Exhale, straighten your front leg, take your hands to your hips. Inhale, turn all your toes toward the long edge of your mat. Exhale, sink down towards the ground as your hands trace your legs. Send some energy through your palms to your legs. Inhale, rise up halfway, flat back. Exhale and fold. Inhale, rise up all the way. Hands come across the legs to the hips. Exhale, bend your front knee and reach your arms wide. Inhale, straighten your front leg. Take your arms up over your head, palms together. Reach out through your left side. Exhale, bend your knee. Take your hands down to the ground, low lunge. Inhale, step your left foot back. Exhale, find some version of your chaturanga or take your downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your right foot off the floor. Exhale, step your right foot to the top of your mat. Spin your back heel down. Inhale, lift up and cartwheel your arms open, warrior two. Exhale, straighten your front leg, draw your hands to your hips. Inhale, turn all your toes. Puff up your chest. Exhale and fold towards the floor. Drag your hands down the outsides of your legs. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold fully. Inhale, soften your knees. Draw your hands all the way up your legs. Stand tall. Exhale, warrior two. Bend your front knee. Inhale, straighten your front leg. Take your hands together over your head. Reach up and out. Exhale, bend your front knee and drop your hands to the ground. Low lunge. Inhale, step your right foot back. Exhale, take your option for your chaturanga or stay in your downward facing dog. Meet in your downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your left foot off the ground. Exhale, step your left foot to the top of your mat. Spin your back heel to the ground. Inhale, rise up, warrior two. Send your arms out wide. Exhale, straighten your front knee. Take your hands to your hips. Inhale, turn your toes. Exhale, drag your hands down the outsides of your legs and shower them with some energy as you go, folding toward the floor. Inhale, the crown of your head points straight out in front of you like you're shooting an arrow. Exhale and fold towards the ground. Inhale, soften your knees, drag your hands all the way up towards your hips, stand up tall. Exhale, bend your front knee and reach your arms out wide. Inhale, straighten your front leg, take your hands together over your head. Exhale, bend your knee, take your hands to the floor, low lunge. Inhale, step your left foot back. Exhale, option for your chaturanga or your down dog. We're all gonna meet in a downward facing dog. Lift your hips up high for one more inhale. Exhale, drop your knees to the ground. Find your tabletop position. Untuck your toes. And find a little bit of movement that feels like a release, or you could come back to a resting pose, to your child's or a seated position. And return to your breath and your intention. Your breath may have changed since the beginning of class. Take some mental notes about how you feel different. Tune into your sensation, your breath on your mat. And return your attention to your intention, your goal or your dedication for the class. If you came up with that pair of opposites, maybe now's the time to infuse a little bit of the opposite in. If it was energy and calm, maybe this is your time to take some calming open mouth exhales in your resting pose. Or movement and stillness, maybe now's the time for stillness. You have all you need. Come back to your belly breaths. On your inhale, use your heels of your hands to pull yourself up into a tabletop position. Let your feet come in line with your knees. And then spin onto one hip. Swing your legs out in front of you and come to a seated position with your legs bent and the soles of your feet on the ground. Sit up tall and take a hold of the backs of your thighs or your knees. Root down through both sits bones and lift up, root to rise. We're starting to move up the body from your connection in your legs, your feet, your hips, and we're coming up into the core. And so we're gonna do a few twists to activate your core. So you could keep your feet right where they are. For a little extra challenge to your balance, you could tiptoe your toes closer to your glutes. Your heels may pop off the floor, and you could stay here with your toes tickling the ground and find your balance on your seat. You could even float your feet up off the floor. Now take your hands up over your head and together. Option to cross your thumbs. Inhale, lift. Exhale, slice your hands over towards your right hip. Inhale, lift. Exhale, slice to the left. Inhale, lift. Exhale, slice. Keep on going. And every time you lift, find a little extra lift with your heart. Inhale, lift, and exhale, slice. Good. You're gonna do just a few more. Take your last full round, both sides, even out. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, roll into a comfortable seated position. And relax just for a moment. And then go ahead and bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet to the ground. Give your legs a big hug, wrap your arms around your shins or your knees, round your back, and drop your head down towards your knees. Expand through your mid-back. Breathe so that you feel it in your back. Lift your head. You can either roll onto one hip and walk your hands out in front of you for your tabletop position, or you could cross your legs, plant your palms, roll over your shins. Draw your knees back so they come in line with your hips, and your wrists come under your shoulders. On your inhale, lift your right arm into the air and turn your chest to the right. Expand your chest. Exhale, draw your hand in towards your heart. Drop your elbow down towards the ground and curl up. Inhale, expand your chest, reach your arm up high. Exhale, draw your hand to your heart. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, draw your hand to your heart and turn your elbow towards the ground. 2 more times on this side. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, draw in. You're balancing out, opening your front and your back. Inhale, lift, last time. Exhale, hand to heart, giving yourself a little love in the process. Inhale, take your hand down to the ground, hold for your exhale. Inhale, sweep your left arm high, opening up your left chest. Exhale, draw your hand to your heart, bring in some love. Turn your elbow down, opening up through your upper back, bowing in towards your heart. Now inhale, expand the front of your heart, lift up. Exhale, expand your upper back, draw your hand to your heart. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hand to heart, curl up. Inhale, lift. Exhale, hand to heart. You've got 2 more. Inhale, lift. Exhale, draw that energy in. Inhale, lift up. Expand your chest. Exhale, and hand to heart, elbow towards the ground. Inhale, take your hand to the ground. Exhale, hold in your tabletop position. Inhale, step your right foot toward the top of your mat. Line up your front knee with your front ankle. If it tips out past your ankle, then you can walk your front toes a little further forward, claim a little more space. Find some length in your left hip flexor. Let your left leg trail out behind you. Make sure your hips are facing the top of your mat. If you've got blocks with you, you could take your hands to blocks here. Begin to open through the front of your heart without pinching your back or the back of your neck. Or you could rise up to your fingertips on the floor. Begin to broaden your collarbones, keep the back of your neck long. Now we'll find a little flow like the waves of an ocean on your inhale. Reach your arms up over your head. Rise up tall. Exhale, bend your elbows to 90 degrees. Lift your chest up high. Sweep your arms down towards the ground. Tickle the mat. Inhale, lift up. Bend your elbows. Exhale, sweep your arms down and forward. Inhale, lift, bend your elbows. Exhale, sweep. Take your last round. On your next exhale, drop your hands to the ground. Take your left hand down. Then inhale, lift your right hand to your right hip, or press your hand into your thigh. Twist open to the right. For more heat in your shoulders, you could sweep your right arm into the air. Draw your shoulder blades together behind you. Keep your right thigh tucking in towards you. Inhale. Exhale, drop both hands to the ground. Begin to rock your hips back as your front leg straightens. And find a little movement that feels like a release. You could tip forward and back, swing your hips side to side, point and flex your foot. Whatever suits you. Tip your toes back down to the ground, bend your knee. Walk your hands forward, come back to your low lunge. Plant your palms and sweep your right knee back. Then switch and step your left foot up to the top of your mat. Drop your hips forward and down. Find length in your left hip flexor. Make sure the top of your left foot is down on the ground and your foot is long and straight. Your front knee is at a 90-ish degree bend. And if you've got blocks, take your blocks under your hands. Or bring your fingertips to the floor. Begin to open up your heart without pinching in your back. finding a flow on your inhale. Sweep your arms up, bend your elbows, lift your heart. Exhale, draw your hands down and trace the floor. Inhale, lift up, bend your elbows. Exhale, arms come down and around. Inhale, lift up, bend your elbows. Exhale, arms sweep. Inhale, lift. Exhale, sweep. Last full time through. Inhale, bend your elbows, lift your chest. Exhale, drop your hands down. Plant your left hand firmly, rather your right hand firmly. Inhale, take your left hand to your hip or to your thigh. Keep your thigh pulling in toward you. Take your spine long and in a diagonal line like you're gonna shoot the crown of your head towards the corner of the room. Option for more heat in your arms, extend your top arm up. Draw your shoulder blades towards each other behind you. Inhale to lift. Exhale, drop both hands down. Walk your hands back and your hips come back and find a little movement that feels like a release to you. You could bend and straighten your knee, point and flex your foot, swivel your hips side to side. Now drop your toes, bend your knee, walk your hands forward, plant your palms, and sweep your left knee back in line with your right knee. Then widen your knees, sit your hips back to your heels, drop your head, find your child's pose, Vinyasa, or another resting pose if child's pose doesn't suit you. Come into your rest. And check in with your sensation. Take note if you feel any different than you did at the start of class. Sometimes the challenge in a posture is not so much the physical or the anatomy, but it's the energetic or the breath to continue to breathe evenly and deeply in a pose. Check back in with your breath here and marry your breath and your body, your anatomy and your energy. Yoga is the union of the two. Take a little bit of svadhyaya, self-study. Ponder what this resting pose could mean for your intention. As you check back in, come in towards yourself again. Now we've moved up through the body, from the earth all the way up through the feet, gaining energy up through the legs, and hips, and core, and heart, and rib cage. We're moving up even further. So use your hands, the heels of your hands, to pull you up into a tabletop position on your hands and knees. Then walk your hands out in front of you. Keep your hips in line with your knees. Your arms reach out. Let your heart drop like a hammock in between your shoulder blades. And take your chin to the floor. And as your chin comes down, keep your gaze just past the tip of your nose. Avoid crunching the back of your neck by trying to look forward. You don't want to do that. If this is uncomfortable, you could turn your forehead down to the ground in your puppy pose. Because this is puppy pose, I like to offer you could wag your tail or rock your hips a little side to side if you like. Tune into your neck and your throat in your puppy pose. How does it feel to either open a little extra through the throat or close that down and open up through the back of your neck if your forehead's on the floor? Either option is great. And remember, these are all just offerings. You could find a resting pose or stay in child's. Now begin to walk your hands and elbows back. And as your hands and elbows come back, your hips drop back down towards your heels and come back to your child's pose, or flip to your side, or come to a tall kneeling. Find a rest and observe how it feels to release your throat and your neck. What feels different after your puppy pose? Also coming into your breath once again. Now from your child's pose, we're going to take the opposite. We're coming up even higher just to touch the crown of your head or the top of your head, to connect to the space above you. Take your hands and reach back. Grab a hold of your heels or your feet for your rabbit pose. Roll from the forehead to the crown of your head. Turn your nose towards your knees. Keep your hands on your feet as leverage. Lift your hips away from your heels. Round your back and curl up. Press your spine up towards the ceiling. Take note how it feels to have some sensation at the top of your head and how it feels to bow in towards your heart and open up through your back. Relax your grip, sink back down, send your arms out in front of you, turn your forehead to the ground and find your child's or resting pose. Observe how it feels to release that gentle pressure at the top of your head, like a lid popping open. Open up through your central channel that runs along your spine all the way from the crown of your head to your lowest point, your tailbone of your spine. Let your breath sweep through you and clear out any blockages. So we've moved all the way up, and now we'll begin to move back down and ground down into the floor as we come toward our final rest. Use your hands to pull you up into your tabletop position, just passing through. Sweep your knees to one side. Spin onto your hip, then swing your legs out in front of you. Sit in the center of your mat with your knees bent. And give yourself a hug. Open up your back. Lift your head. Take your hands to the backs of your thighs or your knees. Roll down nice and slow onto your back. Little bit of engagement in your abdominal muscles as you come down. Round your back and drop each vertebra one by one. Your feet may move in closer, all the way down, and drop your head as the last thing toward the ground. Keep your knees bent and your feet on the floor. Let your knees begin to rock side to side like they're windshield wipers on a car. Next time your knees rock over to the right side, let them drop all the way down. If you've got a block, you could take a block in between your knees if they don't stack. For more sensation in your twist, you could draw your knees in a little closer to you. And then let your left shoulder bloom open and roll out towards the ground. Send your left arm out to the left. Option to turn your face to the left. In this twist, your job is only to surrender and let gravity do the work. Perhaps this calls to mind another pair of opposites if you're working with effort and release, or control and lack of control, acceptance. Let this be a posture of surrender. And you could close your eyes to bring your attention back in onto your mat and even in to your internal sensation. Roll your hips back down to the floor and your knees come back to pointing up. You could take some extra windshield wipers side to side. Then drop your knees over to the left. And send your right arm out to the right. Option to turn your face to the right. If you've got a block, maybe it never left and it's in between your legs. With each exhale, let your shoulder drop a little closer to the floor. Roll back to center, both hips on the ground, your knees pointing up. Take some extra windshield wipers if you like. Now let your feet float up and your knees come wide so they point towards your armpits. Reach around the insides of your legs, grab the outsides of your calves or your ankles or your feet. Slight pull to widen your knees. Drop your low back down towards the floor. Feel your spine anchoring. Happy Baby Ananda Balasana option for a little sway side to side. You could kick out one leg and then the other. Check in with your face, your eyebrows, your jaw, and soften. This is Happy Baby. So I like to have everybody make sure they're not frowning and not taking Grumpy Baby. Relax your face. Release your grip, take your hands to your knees, draw your knees together and in. As you pull your knees in towards you, lengthen your spine and feel the connection of your low back to the floor. Feel the totality of your spine as it extends long and straight along the mat. Earth below you and sky above. Release your grip on your legs and extend your legs toward the top of your mat. Let your feet flop open. Rest your arms loosely by your sides, your palms facing up. Find a position where you're going to be comfortable for several more minutes in your final resting pose. You could cover yourself with a blanket. You could prop up your knees. Find any last little bit of tension and breathe into that space to release the remaining tension. Let your bottom half that's connected to the floor be heavy and drawing down, anchoring you. Let your upper half that's facing up be light and lifted. Close your eyes. Deepen your breathing. And come into your final resting pose, Shavasana, corpse pose. Let the energy flow through your central column as you rest and breathe. You have a right to be here and to be supported. You have a right to your feelings and to your experience. You have a right to act, to believe in yourself and your abilities. You have a right to love and be loved. You have a right to speak and be heard. You have a right to seek knowledge and understanding. You have a right to your place in the world. All these together bring balance. You have a right to a balanced and peaceful existence, and you have all you need within you to attain it. Slowly begin to awaken back into your sensation in your body. Bring some small movements to your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Roll your ankles and your wrists. Awaken your whole body with a long body stretch, your arms up over your head. Hug your knees to your chest. Keep your eyes closed. Find your way onto your right side into a fetal position. Option to use your bottom arm as a pillow. Now, however is most comfortable for you, come up into your comfortable seated position. You could use your hands and press you up, or rock and roll up. When you reach your seat, and that might include a bolster or blanket under you, find your comfortable seat with your spine long and tall, rooting down and lifting up, both grounded and light. Bring your hands together, plug your thumbs into your sternum. Shut your eyes. The light and love in me honors the light and love in you. Together we bow and say namaste. Namaste. Thank you for joining me. My name is Jojo. That was your Vinyasa Flow class. And I'd love to hear how you feel. If you've got any feedback. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.